This is not a movie trick. This is not a Hollywood prop. An army of artists, sound engineers, and radio actors, 1,100 men, changed the map of Europe without firing a gun. Inflatable tanks, sound trucks that played recorded convoys, fake radio chatter broadcasting whole divisions. They made phantom armies. They made generals appear where there were none. And in the fog of war, the Germans believed them. This is the Ghost Army. In early 1944, the US Army did something nobody expected. They formed a unit that would not fight with bullets. They formed a unit that fought with illusion. They called it the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. To the men who joined, it looked like a crazy job ad. Artists, advertisers, stage designers, radio actors, sound engineers, costume men. Some had painted Broadway sets, others had sold soap with jingles. Now they were drafted into a different theater, the battlefield. Training moved fast and strange. They learned how to make rubber tanks look like iron under the sun. They learned how to mix gravel, paint, and shadow into convincing fight scars. They studied German aerial photography. They learned what cameras read and what they missed. The unit's instruction manuals read like theater stage directions. Place tent, light fire, play convoy at 73 decibels, evacuate at dawn. Their orders were deceptively simple. Make the enemy see what was not there. Make them commit real troops to fake problems. Delay reinforcements, save lives, confuse commanders. This was imagination turned into military doctrine. A curated army built from artists' tools. The Ghost Army built illusions in 3 layers. First, the visual. From the air, sight is king. Grainy photographs reduce form to shadow. The Ghost Army exploited that. They made inflatable Shermans. They built fake aircraft wings from canvas and wood. They set up dummy supply dumps and tents. From altitude, these decoys read as real as steel. Second, the sonic. Sound engineers recorded real tank convoys, idling engines, the metallic clack of treads, the shuffle of soldiers. They amplified these recordings through trailer-mounted speaker arrays. The sound carried like a phantom column moving down the road. Imagine the ground rumbling. German reconnaissance teams heard it and reported it. Third, the radio. Radio operators practiced the cadence of real divisions. They used authentic call signs and scripted message nets. They fed the air with believable chatter, logistics, officer jokes, weather updates, the mundane details that make a formation believable. Separately, each trick might be questionable. Together, they were irresistible. Photography saw tanks. Sound convinced scouts. Radio convinced command. The enemy didn't just think there was a force. They acted like it existed. The Ghost Army didn't operate in isolation. They moved with the Allied advance. They were at Normandy. They were at the port sieges. They were at river crossings. Take Normandy. In the weeks after D-Day, German commanders were obsessed with where the next blow would fall. The Ghost Army staged false convoys and phantom beach buildups. Enemy reconnaissance reported armored formations in sectors where none existed. That forced German commanders to hold reserves where they weren't needed, while Allied columns broke through elsewhere. At Brest, the Ghost Army staged an entire battery of tanks on a ridge. Real assault units struck where German command expected defenses to be weak. On the Rhine, dummy pontoon bridges and loudspeakers simulated river crossings. German commanders moved divisions in response, divisions that never engaged real troops. Every operation followed a simple economics of war. A small investment in illusion produced a large return in enemy attention. Lives saved, objectives gained. All told, they ran more than 20 campaigns. Each campaign had a measure of cunning, mapmakers reading aerial photos, sound engineers cueing a reel, actors improvising orders. They wove stories across landscapes, and the Germans read those stories and believed them. These were artists in uniform. A painter would become a camouflage specialist. An advertising copywriter wrote radio scripts. A stage manager timed inflatable deficits like stage cues. They kept diaries and sketchbooks. One note reads like a director's call sheet. 0930 inflate tanks, 1015 set camera angle shadows, 1100 Q sound array. They joked about making ghosts, but they knew the job's seriousness. Their props decided whether an enemy held or moved reserves. Their brushstrokes shifted battle lines. After the war, many returned to art, design, or media. You can find echoes of their camouflage in post-war painting. Their creativity translated back into civilian life, but for decades they kept silent. Teams trained to deceive do not boast. Secrecy became a second uniform. They worked near the front. Phantom tanks had to be where enemy scouts could find them, sometimes within range of artillery. That meant deflating under shell fire. It meant moving a dummy convoy at dawn to avoid patrols. It meant being mistaken for the force you pretended to be. Their methods were a national secret. For decades, intelligence doctrine kept their records sealed. The men took their stories home and locked them away. Only much later did historians read those files. Danger, silence, recognition years later. The arc of their story bends from secrecy into overdue honor. The Ghost Army's theater changed how wars are fought. Today's camouflage, decoys, and scipular operations owe something to those canvas tanks and reel-to-reel engineers. Their mission was never about glory. It was about saving lives and confusing violence. For decades, their story was classified. Then photographs, diaries, and veterans' accounts emerged. Museums mounted exhibits. Filmmakers told chapters. In 2022, surviving members and their legacy were formally honored. Recognition decades later, but heartfelt. There is a lesson here beyond wartime craft. Imagination is a weapon. What they did at the margins of war matters to us now, to anyone who must outthink a larger force. Art, sound, story, deception used for protection. They were actors, artists, and technicians who fought without firing. They changed the map of the war with illusion, and their story asks us a question. When will imagination be used next? To harm or to save? If you learned something new, subscribe. Tell us which deception shocked you most.